Chapter 7. A Black Cat. The police came the next morning to ask to look at Carl's apartment. Thankfully, I was home at the time, pulling weeds out of the flower bed. It didn't take long to fetch my key to apartment C and hand it over to Pesky.
"Are you certain you don't remember anything else about Carl?"
questioned Pesky one last time as he accepted the key. I told you everything last night. I tried to keep my temper in check and reminded myself that Pesky was just doing his job. I also have a copy of the rental agreement if you'd like to see it.
"I would,"
nodded Pesky. I went back into the house to retrieve it from my desk in the living room. Despite the stack of unpaid bills and unorganized mail on top, inside the desk was neatly filed. This was more due to Cat than myself. She loved to clean and organize everything, and naturally, I let her. I grabbed the rental agreement and headed back onto the porch, only to find that Pesky hadn't waited for me. Instead, he was already upstairs, unlocking the door to Carl's apartment. Slightly annoyed, I quickly followed him up the steps as he opened the door. A black cat with a green collar and tags came out, meowing loudly as it tried to weave between Pesky's legs. Pesky nearly tripped over the cat.
"Can you keep your animal under control?"
"It's not my cat." The protest died on my lips as Pesky shoved the animal aside with a foot before entering the house. The cat yowled in protest, and I sighed. I held out a hand for the feline to sniff. "You must be Carl's pet. What is your name, kitty cat?" The cat gave my hand a delicate sniff before pressing against my feet and purring. I petted the soft black fur before carefully picking up the cat. I hoped Carl's emergency contact liked animals and would take this one in. The shelter in Autumn Heights was already overrun with animals, and I would hate to have to bring the cat there. "Officer Pesky?" I ventured as I stepped into the apartment. It was like he had forgotten me. Already, Pesky was in Carl's bedroom, going through the closet. I closed the door and set the cat down. It rubbed against my legs with a purr. I looked around in curiosity and some surprise. Carl had been exceptionally neat. The place looked like it had been deep cleaned yesterday. There wasn't a thing out of place. No pictures hung on the walls, no extra furniture, no rugs, no knickknacks of any kind. Not even a mark on the walls to indicate he had hung a picture at one point. It was a minimalist dream space. It was like he barely lived there. Deciding to investigate a little further, I opened the fridge a moment to gauge if I would need to come back to throw out any milk or other items that might spoil. All his food was lined up perfectly, labels outward so they could be read. Mostly it was condiments in the fridge, but it was odd. What man organizes his own fridge, spacing out the jars so neatly? I shut the door and examined a nearby cupboard, only to find the same thing. All canned food was organized better than any supermarket shelf. Weird. There were no takeout boxes in the garbage either. The man apparently liked to cook for himself. However, looking at his pans, I couldn't say they appeared to ever have been cooked in. They sparkled like they were brand new. I frowned and opened the microwave. Clean. Under the sink there were 3 pairs of rubber washing gloves and so many cleaners lined neatly in rows. I decided Carl was an obsessive cleaner, which meant I didn't even need to clean this apartment except to get Carl's old stuff out of it. Bonus for me. Immediately, I felt a little bad for thinking that. The man was dead, and here I was thinking about cleaning his apartment for the next renter as I snooped through it. I shut the cupboard door and went to find Pesky, who was staring at a desk in the living room. "Officer Pesky?" I ventured, noting Pesky's frowning face as he glowered at the desk. "Is there a problem?"
"It looks like a computer was supposed to be here,"
mentioned Pesky.
"See all the cords? You wouldn't happen to know anything about this?"
"No," I answered. "This is the first time I've been in the apartment since Carl rented it. Do you think it was stolen?" Pesky gave me a sharp look.
Who else has a key to this apartment?
Just Carl and I. I began to get a bad feeling in my stomach. Unless Carl made a copy and gave it to someone. I hoped not. I would much rather not have to change the locks, as it was expensive to do, and I was not a handy person, so it would be a bad idea to install it myself.
There was no sign of forced entry on the door,
muttered Pesky, almost to himself.
So either the person who stole the computer either knew Carl or had a key.
He looked at me as he said the words, his eyes full of suspicion. Thank you for listening to Autumn Heights One Drops Dead. If you enjoyed this chapter, please consider sharing with your friends who also might enjoy it. Happy listening!